Welcome to the podcast from Yoggoth. Today I am joined by Carl and Brent. Yes, together in the same room.
Oh, wow.
For the first time on the Vermis Mysterious podcast.
Not for the first time ever.
Not for the first time ever.
Probably for the third time ever.
Yeah. So, a momentous occasion. I don't quite know what I'm about to get myself into.
All right. Well, tonight the game is called Nub City. And I actually don't want to give too much away.
Yep.
I will tell you the year is 1981. We've got two players, a Florida State trooper and an insurance investigator from New York. This is a semi-fictionalized, semi-historical setting. So we are basing the game on Vernon City, Florida. I don't know why they call it a city, more of a town at best. A small town in Florida, sort of in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, look, I'm sure it's a lovely place, so we should say at the top, if you're actually from Vernon, Florida, which I doubt, because there are, as said, 700 people there, and I don't think anyone there plays Dungeons & Dragons or listens to it or cares about it, but if you were from Vernon, Florida, I'm very sorry, because we're not giving it a very flattering depiction, but this is a fictionalized version. We're just playing up the tropes. It's not very fun to be hyper-realistic. I'm sure the real town itself is a very wonderful, sleepy city. But this is based on a semi-historical set of events here in Nub City, aka Vernon, Florida, with a few other little semi-historical events from different places, particularly around Florida and the American South, thrown in, all sort of dropped into one location in a blender. So we're going to be basically using Cthulhu-style rules, like Chaosium Cthulhu, but we're not using character sheets. I'm not giving them like health totals or sanity totals or anything like that. We're just going to basically only use percentile dice and keep rolls to a minimum. They shouldn't be too important. We begin in New York at Patriot Insurance Incorporated. Daleks, can you tell me your the character's name?
John Barron.
Is that how you talk?
Very, very low, as a whisper.
Okay. All right, maybe it'll grow on me. You've been called into a meeting with the head of your insurance agency, Mr. Yukon. Very important man. Always in a hurry. You are usually sent around on all sorts of different national assignments. You've got a lot of investigations under your belt. You're not well liked in the office. Not many people like you, but you are appreciated for your talents. You're extremely proficient at your job, and you have a 100% hit rate. Everywhere you go, you manage to uncover something. Your whole prerogative as a private detective working with an insurance company is to dig up dirt and give reasons not to pay. So you're a pretty hated person wherever you go. You turn up somewhere, look for reasons why the insurance company don't have to pay out, and try and raise a reasonable suspicion of something like arson deliberately or something to cast aspersions on insurance claims. Of course, you're only called in when there's a lot of money at stake.
Yeah.
So we're not talking small cases here. And you're paid commensurately. So here we are at a lobster lunch in the private dining hall in Mr. Yukon's sub-office. It's a very wealthy company. Well, you enjoying the food?
John Barron has ordered a slice of white bread. He's taken the pepper, the salt and pepper, and he's cracked a bunch of black pepper into the center of the slice of bread, and then poured a bunch of salt over the top, sliced off the crusts, rolled it up into a sort of a small sausage, and using a glass of water to get it down, he sort of puts it all in his mouth.
Well, there is a lobster beside him as well that maybe he can be ignoring.
Well, he's ignoring it, but glaring over at it, sort of in a bit of a paranoid fashion every now and then. You could say that.
Never understood you. Never understood you at all, but you get the job done. I got an assignment for you. You've been floundering here in the office, and I want to get you back out in the field. What do you say?
I like it here in the office.
Yeah, well, the office doesn't like you here.
John Barron smiles widely. Can't see why.
See, that's it, John. You're incapable of not being creepy. It's unsettling, but we've offered to pay you for your time away substantially. You'll be receiving travel pay in excess of 100% of your usual salary. Of course, all travel and accommodation and meals covered. You can buy as many freaky white bread sausages as you want.
I'll take it.
Good. If you successfully complete the mission, that is to say you find reason to halt payouts and recover certain assets, well, you will receive a bonus. That is to say, a 6% commission on the money not paid out. In this case, we're talking something in the order of a total of $20 million with you to receive, 1.2.
Hang on a second. $1.2 million. Small town in Florida. What the fuck is going on here, sir?
You ever heard of Nub City?
Can't say I have.
Yeah, it's a bit of a joke around the office here, but of course, I'm sure you're not in on many of the office jokes. Nub City, Vernon, Florida. Last year, how many insurance cases do you reckon we had paid out for loss of limb? Dismemberment cases. How many do you think we paid out total last year, 1980 alone?
24?
24? Well, maybe if not for Nub City, we paid out in total probably about 120. Nub City accounted for more than 2/3 of our total dismemberment and loss of limb cases last year. We call these guys the Nub Club. Seems someone in Vernon got wise, realized that a life insurance policy pays out in full if there is a loss of 2 limbs. Some guys figure an arm and a leg might be best. You go around a crutch on each side. Some guys figure 2 legs and they can still work with their hands or, hold their loved ones. Some guys figure I'll get rid of both arms and I can go for a run.
I know these regulations like the back of my hand. It's gonna be a struggle to prove that they did this on purpose. I mean, who the hell would chop off an arm? I don't think there's anything in the rule books about that.
There's definitely things in the rule books about doing it on purpose. If we can find any proof that these people have deliberately dismembered themselves in order to receive a payout, well, we can come down on them with the full force of the law. We can revoke any paid assets, and we can seize payments that have not yet been delivered, and we're talking a lot of money here. A lot of money. This is a small town, but it accounts for a majority, in fact, a 2/3 majority of our dismemberment payouts. In a town of, Vernon is about 600, 700 people. Do you know how many dismemberment payouts there have been in that town over the last 15 years?
Tell me.
Over 150.
So they're all walking around with no legs down there.
Not all of them, but enough, right? That's gotta be just about one in every household.
Well, then this shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd say that. But listen, there's a twist. The reason we're paying you so good is it's dangerous.
Dangerous? What, a bunch of amputees come after me?
Well, between them, they got enough arms to swing a knife or two. But, the last lady we sent down there never came back. You might have known her. Joan Keys. Yeah, Joan Keys. We sent her down on investigation. Went alone. Big mistake. We haven't heard from her for about a week. I'd like to play you something. This is her last correspondence. She was recording cassette tapes, mailing them back. Something she did. An old process. Never dropped it from the 70s. Here, I'll play it for you. And he pulls out a cassette tape player. puts in a cassette, rewinds it, hits play. You hear this voice. The woman sounds extremely foggy, like she's talking in a dream state. I just came from meeting Bob. There's something awful in this place. I can hear it all night long. It's like this buzzing in my ears. Keeps me up, you know. I tried praying it away, like Mom always said. But I just feel so empty. Like there's nothing in me, and the prayers just echo, like a hollow cathedral. The buzzing won't stop. Hey, but I met a man. He was made of paper. Said I gotta go to church. Gotta get right, get real, you know. I won't be at the office party next Friday, I guess. This is Joan, signing out.
Joan. Never took much notice of her.
Neither did anyone. That's why she was a good investigator. Nothing in her psych evaluations suggested any psychosis or paranoia. Completely by the books gal. A lot of successful investigations like yourself, but... well, you heard it. She's unhinged. She's either gone native or gone. You catch my drift? I think there's a lot of money at stake here, and where there's money, there's violence. People in this town won't take lightly to someone poking around. And that brings me on to my next point. We're gonna send you with a partner. And don't complain, I know you like to work alone. But this is important. We're sending you with a Florida State Police officer.
What?
I know. But they're as interested in this as we are. It seems the local cops, now they ain't got a station in Vernon. It's too much of a nowheresville, but just a little north of Vernon in, let me just have a look at these small towns, you know. I think it's up there in Chipley, I think they call it. They got a little police station up there. Yeah, in Chipley. But some of the cops up there, just about a, 30-minute drive out of town. Well, let's just say they've had a few officers make loss of limb claims as well. Chief up there is burying everything he can. There's absolutely no way to get police cooperation from within the town on this, and so the state police, usually just kept aside for traffic violations and highways, well, they're coming down on this pretty hard. Police corruption is something they take pretty seriously, so they're sending one of their own with you. Whole town's in on it. You're gonna need all the help you can get.
Well, it could be useful to have a chauffeur.
Yeah, something like that. Look, and with your little police siren, you can skip all the traffic lights. Not that they got a lot of those in Vernon. Now, you're gonna meet your partner at the firing range. It's been a request of the firm, and you know how good we are at shoring up and ensuring our agents. It's been a request that you want to take basic training with your sidearm. I hope you don't have to use it. You got any questions?
Just one. What do I do about Joan?
Joan? Joan Keys? If you find her. My guess is she's been eaten by gators. But if you manage to turn her up, or any pieces of her, well, the firm would love to know. We would take legal action against the town. We would certainly take it very seriously, and if she is alive, well, I guess we'd like to hear from her about what happened, in any case.
All right. I'll see if I can find her.
Very good. That's all?
Suppose so. Guess I'll be seeing you in a week or so.
Alright, you cringe a bit as he pops one of the lobster's arms off its body and sucks the meat out of it. Sort of waves the lobster limb. Nub City. Have fun. You fly out at 9:30 p.m. that night. What are you doing in the roughly 2 hours you've got until your flight?
I'm preparing. getting my suitcase together. I've got my tools of the trade, caliper, tape measure, roll of a string, my big fat book of regulations, little plastic bags which I can put samples in, and a spray paint marker. I've stuffed those into a suitcase and then just pull out from my wardrobe, I'll say 3 of my identical black suits, and my silk ties. Shine my shoes. Then stare out the window for about an hour and a half.
Okay, while you're doing that, a younger intern in the office sort of walks past you and goes, "Hey, am I getting any presents this year?"
I just totally ignore her, and I'm sort of staring out onto the street below, and then shifting my gaze and staring at my reflection of my face, and then shifting it back onto the street, and then I shift it back and I look at her and I glare at her.
You know, fun. You know, some people around the office here call you Santa Claus. So you always keeping that list of whether we've been naughty or nice? I assume that's what's in your big book over there. You should lighten up a little. It's Christmas in 3 weeks. Well, whatever. She walks away.
I turn around, fuming, and shut the door after her, and then, pack up my things.
All right, well, let's fly over to Florida, where we are in Tallahassee. Now, this is not with Baron yet. Currently, what's your name over here, Brent?
Mason Jackson.
Mason Jackson. Mason Jackson is in the Florida State Police Dispatch in Tallahassee, meeting with his inspector. I think they're called inspectors. I should have done more homework on Florida State Police. Let's call him an inspector. He's called you into his office, and he's putting you on special assignment. Now, since the accident, a traffic stop which escalated into a unfortunate shooting and death, you've been unpopular around the office. Of course, none of them want to see you prosecuted because they're all interested in saving their own skin if something similar ends up happening to them. But you are an embarrassment to the force right now. You brought a lot of disrepute, and things aren't very friendly between you and the other staff. Now listen here. Mason it is, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Well, I put you on a special assignment. I'm gonna be taking my eyes off you for a little bit, getting your stink out of the room. Gotta clear the air, you see.
What do you mean? You know how it is on those old rifles, you know?
Now, why you drew a rifle on a man in a simple traffic stop, I don't understand myself. But
Well, when he's pulling out an old Pepsi can from underneath his car, you know, from where his legs are, I could have been anything. He could have had a rifle of his own.
listen, you're a real practical
When he draws
joker.
and I draw, who knows, is the first one to hit the trigger.
I'll bet he was the fastest can of Pepsi in the West. I believe you, but the fact is, I don't want you around no more. I don't want you here. I don't want you under my roof. I don't want you on my team. But
I'm
I
the
can't
best you
fire
have.
you see, because if I fire you, well, then that'd be like telling the whole world that we made a mistake. And you know I can't do that. So, I'm giving you a special assignment, and you're gonna thank me for it. You're gonna be on your knees, praising me like I'm the Lord Jesus after this assignment, because this is going to save your life. I am sending you to Vernon, Florida.
You're sending me to that backwash grub town?
Yes, I am. An insurance company is finally doing something about, what with the dismemberments down there.
Insurance company?
Yeah, Patriot Insurance Company in New York gets sick of paying out. And so, we're sending you down to investigate. Your job is going to be to keep the insurance investigator safe while you inquire into corruption within the local police force and try to get to the bottom of what's going on. People are dying out there.
So let me get this straight. You're asking me to play bodyguard for some pompous New York City prat?
Something like that. What did you think you were going to get for killing a man for reaching for his Pepsi? A prison sentence? Unlikely in the state police.
Looks like you gave me no choice.
No, I did not. Now, you're gonna be meeting him at the firing range, teaching him how to use a sidearm in something like, 3 hours from now. You got about that long to pack your belongings, and then you're shipping off to Vernon. I don't assume that your investigation will be quick, and I would like you to take your sweet time before you show your face around here again.
Consider it done. I've got everything I need. I'll pack everything I need, and, well, it'll be over in a jiffy.
Okay. He reaches for the can of Pepsi on his desk. Ooh! Puts his hands up all of a sudden, looks at you. Don't shoot.
Hey, man, I can visibly...
Get out of my face.
I can visibly see the Pepsi can, alright? It's a different
Get out of
story.
here. Anyway, shoots you out. Well, now you're both at the firing range. You've never handled a gun in your life, Baron. You live in New York, not the safest place, but you know it's not the gun-toting place that Tallahassee, Florida is. So your partner here is a little bit more experienced, but all the same, you don't like being talked down to. You guys can play this out.
So I walk up. I've got very tanned, kind of wrinkly skin, kind of short stature, a bit burly, wearing my Florida State Police uniform with a hat that goes round, badge, the side badge, and I've got a kind of like a long kind of beard, hasn't been trimmed in a while, sort of outgrown, and very dark, deep eyes. So, you must be, well, I'm not very good with names, I'm better with faces, but all I can say is I haven't seen you around these parts.
Mr. Baron.
John Barron is tall, lanky, sweltering in his black suit. He's got big sweat patches underneath his arms. His face is pale, angular features which all sort of converge into his very tightly pursed mouth. Clean shaven, and he's also got bags under his eyes.
Pleasure.
Mason looks at him with a bit of contempt and goes to shake his hand. Name's Mason Jackson. Nice to meet you.
He shakes his hand. Baron's hand is cold despite his profuse sweating.
Jesus Christ, man, you've been living under a rock? When's the last time you seen some sunlight?
I got long limbs. Blood doesn't reach that far down.
He says it, and his hands are slightly blue.
Your service weapon is a Colt's M1917. It's a pretty basic revolver, very dated at this point, literally made in 1917. Not this particular one, but the model of weapon. Pretty simple to use. Standard 6-shot revolver.
Anywho, so you're here on the case, with apparently, many people down in Vernon been losing limbs left, right, and center. It's a bloody crazy town down there, apparently. What they say, 1 in 7, some people have limbs missing or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Listen, Mr. Jackson. You can either be a help or a hindrance. You can be a great help if you teach me how to shoot this thing.
And I hold up the 1917, quizzically.
Whoa. Don't go waving that thing around. Don't point that thing at me. Point it downwards. Gee.
So I'm going to give Baron, now he's just had a bit of a practice, a 50% with firearms. and I'm going to give the state trooper over here, which was Mason, correct? Mason's going to have about an 80. He's very well practiced. One thing he can do is shoot things, much to the misery of the citizens of Florida.
Shoot first, ask later.
That's absolutely not the motto of the Florida State Police.
So we're driving silently, and I take out the cassette, slide it in, and
Hit play.
yeah.
I just came from meeting Bob. Something awful in this place. Buzzing my ears. Hollow cathedral. It was made of paper.
Well, damn.
Needless to say, she wasn't at the office party. Neither was I.
Well, I got to say, she's gone quite loopy.
Sounds like LSD to me. You ever tried this stuff?
Well, me and a couple boys from school when we were in our young teens, you know, running in the forest, drinking fine brew. Well, wasn't that fine. Taking a couple of tabs. It was only that one time, but that's about it. How about you? You dabble?
Once. Long time ago. Mason and I learned that every man is limited by his prism of understanding. And I can tell you this. Your prism is a lot more narrow than mine.
I expected nothing less from a pompous NYC prick like yourself. Since your prism is so large, why don't you choose our next move? Where do you think the direction of this investigation should go then, Mr. Big Brains?
Well, we don't have much to go on, but this Bob character, that's a name. Buzzing sound, she said she heard. Something about an empty cathedral and a paper man. It all sounds like nonsense to me, but you know, in these mad ravings, there could be something useful.
Well, there's got to be at least 100 Bobs in this little town of 700. But
1 in 7 people are called Bob.
but I'm sure we can narrow down the search a little. Check out the cathedral. There's probably only one in town anyway.
Something tells me it's not Catholic.
Well, I don't even know. I don't believe in any of that hoo-ha nonsense anyway. I just believe in rational thought and, I see it, I believe it, It's as simple as that. I see a beer, I have a beer. I shoot, I hunt. It's fun.
And I vote.
Yeah, and I vote, well...
This is a real prism measuring contest. Vernon, Florida is swampy. It runs along Holmes Creek, which is quite a pristine waterway, really. It's not too bad a place, but the city itself is derelict. It's not really a city, more of a town. It's basically a single large square of roads with a little small grid within it of about 4 streets, dividing up all of the basic amenities you'd expect to see in a small town, except there's no police station. The nearest police station is, as before mentioned, Chipley, about 20 minutes out of town. In town, you've got, a few fine establishments. You've got a donut house. You've got a high school, a junior school, Vernon City Hall, looking surprisingly well made compared to the rest, but the town square facing over from Vernon City Hall is all this horrible split apart, barely paved ground with sewage leaking up from the road. It's disgusting. Cruising around, there are a few churches in the town as well, which you can take note of. There are 2 churches, Vernon First Baptist Church and the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Those are the only 2 churches in town that seem to be operating.
Shiloh Ministry. Why don't we try that one?
Alright, strap yourself in.
It's a fairly, modern-looking building. It's clearly not as old as First Baptist Church, but you could have told that by the name. Most of these towns have a First Baptist Church. Some of them have a second. This is that second. It's a pretty plain, sort of long A-frame hall intersected by another A-frame hall in the shape of a sickle or a letter R. It's pretty cheap. Weatherboard, aluminium or steel roof. Nothing impressive.
Yeah, walk up to the door, sort of peer in a window as I go past. Is there anyone in there? Can I see?
No one's in there currently. No meetings on, but you can see that the parsonage where the priest lives is only next door.
I take a glance at the notice board.
Yeah, it says, repent and believe.
Does it look like it's been changed in a while?
No, the letters have been like that for quite a while.
Trying not to, trip on any of the cracks in the pavement, I go up to the front door and open it.
It's locked.
I walk up from behind. Open up in there. State police.
No one
Want to
comes
ask
to the
a couple
door.
questions?
You're not sure if anyone's actually there.
Let's try this little building out back.
Yeah, it's just about, 50 meters to the west of the building. You walk up Moss Hill Road and reach this small little house, which is sort of a similar construction and style to the Baptist church. A little A-frame looking house. You knock on the front door, and a fairly gaunt looking man wearing a woolen jumper, which is a bit unseasonable in this heat, and a pair of khaki trousers enters the door. He has a goatee and a bald head. Sorry, I don't believe I have any business with the police, but you're most welcome in my home. Please come inside.
We'll step inside.
Yes.
The name's Pastor Ben Johnson.
Well, I'm Mason. I'm with the state police. Could you offer me at least a cup of tea or something? We just want to ask a couple questions.
I ain't got no tea, but I got coffee.
Coffee does well as well, sir. Just 2 sugars and some milk.
Mighty English of you drinking tea. I'll fix us a pot of coffee. He walks into the next room and you can hear some boiling water and whatnot on a saucepan on the stove. Now, he calls out from the kitchen. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit this evening, gentlemen?
Well, sir, we're new arrivals in Vernon. We were actually just driving through and we like the look of the place.
I shoot off a small smile to Mason.
We were just actually looking for a place to stay. Is there a hotel or even a diner we can get some food around here?
A hotel? Well, I don't think we got anything as fancy as a hotel around here, but, if you like, I could ask around and see if somebody wanted to put you up.
That'd be most kind, sir. Actually, I haven't been entirely honest with you.
I say as he sort of comes back in the room, holding the coffees.
A colleague of mine, young lady, Joan. She was passing through here and, haven't heard from her in a while.
Now that you mention that name, I do recall meeting a woman named Joan, a frequenter of the Donut Land Express. I never saw her in my congregation, though. Seemed a nice enough young lady. Shame to hear that she's come upon some trouble. But then, of course, in these times, with the rise of all them Satanists, them pagans, all of those ill and evil folk sweeping over this country, I'm not surprised.
I never said she came into any trouble. Just that I hadn't heard from her in a time.
When's the last time you saw Joan?
It would have been, I don't know, over a week ago.
Was she with anybody?
Oh no, she kept to herself. Didn't see her making a lot of friends around here. Of course, it's what happens when you go prying in dark places. Occasionally you turn up a rattlesnake and get bit.
What do you mean that she was dark places?
Insurance investigator, of course. I assume you have some relation. She was looking into something about the insurance claims of dismemberment. Of course, I can't blame her. It's mighty suspicious how many folks there are on crutches around here. You should see my pastoral care meal roster. But people do what they gotta do to survive. This is a hard place to live. I got half my congregation chasing down possums for their next meal. Big man in the city promises you if you cut off your arm, he'll give you $70,000. Well, who is the devil in that equation? The one who's tempted? Or the one who offers the policy?
Well, anyone in your congregation chopped off a limb?
Unfortunately. But it's not mine to pry. I can only take them at their word. But there do seem to be an awful lot of firearms accidents of late.
Well, with all this money from insurance claims, you'd think they'd be able to fix the pavement around here.
Well, there is money, that's true. Been a lot more sports cars driving around here in Vernon, Florida. But funnily enough, our offertories barely increased. You'd think for all the people flying around in their new cars looking like they're Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra out of the big city, there'd be a little bit more investment in their local community, but no. Ill-gotten gains for ill-gotten use.
You mentioned Satanists?
Oh, of course I do. You surely have noticed. All across this country, people turning away from old-time religion to strange and devilish practices. Old paganism. I tell you, when the founders of this country enshrined that there'd be no establishment of any religion, it was intended to protect our freedom of Christianity so the different denominations of our own faith would not squabble. If you told the framers of our good Constitution that their laws would make way for the practice of Satanism in the open air, well, I think they would have legislated differently.
Any Satanists around here?
Of course there are. Listen, I ain't met them nor seen them. But there's rumors. Some voodoo cult out in the woods, and I don't know what they do. Black magic and voodoo. But there's been blood spattered on the door of my church nigh every week for the last year.
And who told you these rumors?
Rumors. Rumors of the blood on the door that I clean off every Sunday morning before services begin?
No, not of the blood, about the cult in the woods.
Oh, it's the talk of the town because people don't tell me everything. Might as you believe it. It is one downside of being a single pastor. It's usually the pastor's wife that gets all the good gossip. As it is, I only know what people tell me. And I hear rumors of, strange hoodoo voodoo nonsense, but I can't say that other than the blood on my church door, I've seen much of it myself with my own eyes.
You're not the only pastor in the town.
No. There is the colored church up the road.
And they also getting bloods thrown around on their doors?
Of course they are, and much worse than what we get from what I hear. He's a mighty good man up there, Pastor Luke. Pastor Luke Jefferson. He's a gentle spirit, very troubled by these things. We've talked about it in our regular pastor's meeting. We meet together, you see, the local ministers once a month and discuss. He maybe takes a more superstitious approach than I, but all in all, I don't think he'd know much more than I do. Nonetheless, I'm troubled, mighty troubled.
Well,
What do you say? Any more questions for the old man?
I think you've been a great service.
And I hold out my empty coffee cup, put it back on the tray.
The coffee was all right, but I gotta say, tasted tea stronger than this stuff.
He looks at you and says, "Moderation in all things, brother. Now Godspeed."
Thank you for your time. Let's go.
So, walking back to the car,
Well, I didn't think we'd uncover a death cult.
Well, that's just rumors. Could just be a couple of boys running amok up in the woods for some shits and gigs. We don't know for sure.
Well, how would you motivate a man to chop off his own limbs?
I don't know. Have you seen the state of this town? Half of the buildings are falling down. You know, just getting all shit. Got no food. Got no money. I'll chop off my arm for 70 grand.
I've driven through 100 shithole towns in this damn state, and well, maybe you're right. It is depressing, but still, something, I don't know, just goes against the very nature of being alive.
Yeah, you do. That is a good point. And you think of how much money that's gonna get flying around this town would, you know, look a bit better than it does. Do we check out some of the other churches, or?
Yeah, I think Pastor Luke.
Okay. Yeah, you can go to First Baptist Church. There's a very small black population in Vernon, probably about 10 to 15% of the local town, and of a town of 700, that doesn't amount to too many, but enough to sustain a church. The church, it's sort of much older looking than Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. It's brick and has a little pointy bell tower. a big point on top of its bell tower, creating an artificial height which sort of towers over the rest of the buildings around it. No big skyscrapers here in Vernon, with beautiful columns out the front that make the rest of the building look comparably cheap. But it does have a paved car park, which surprises you.
okay, we pull up. Is there anyone else in the car park?
No, there's two other cars, but no one else in the car park.
Walking up to the door, are there any traces of blood on the ground?
No. If there were, they've been thoroughly cleaned.
Okay, I guess we'll go inside.
Okay. As you walk inside, you see a bereaved woman crying and speaking with her, like sitting on a chair opposite facing the front pew, is a fairly overweight African-American man in a very nice suit. He's clearly counseling her for something. She's clearly grieving.
Does she have all four limbs?
She does have all four limbs, as does he. And you can see at the front of the church, there's a floral arrangement and a space that looks set aside for a coffin to be carried in. You think they're preparing for a funeral in the next few days.
Okay, well, sit down in a pew and wait for...
Yeah, the pastor takes note of you and he taps the woman on the shoulder, and you see him close his eyes and mutter a quick prayer before saying something that you think could be, "I'll be back in a minute," as he walks over to you. Excuse me, can I help you, gentlemen?
I'm Mason, Florida State Police. I'm wondering if you've seen a missing woman named Joanne pass through, maybe. Came to the church. She was an avid believer in the faith.
Well, I don't know any woman named Joan or Joanne in this town. No, I haven't seen her, but there was a strange woman what come through some few weeks ago, Joan Keys, but never saw her in church. Never knew her personally.
That's the one. I'm bad with names, good with faces.
I myself am quite partial to a donut, and that is where I saw her at the Donut Express. I make a point of saying hello to all travelers passing through, but no, I never saw her in my congregation. I'm sorry.
Why did you say she's a strange woman?
Well, she was always wearing these real uptight suits, like a black pencil skirt. Real form-hugging. Inappropriate, most folk would say, around these parts. She was clearly from the city. She seemed real jumpy, a jittery type.
Well, anyway, that's only secondary. We just come to ask a bit more about... We've heard some rumors about strange cult in the woods, blood being thrown around in churches. We just wanted to see your perspective, maybe.
Is that finally getting a look in?
Yes, it is,
I write
sir.
to the Florida State Police for how many consecutive months now? Complaining about the blood left on the door of my church every Sunday morning, and finally someone shows their face. Well, I'm glad to hear it, but I can't say that I know much more than what you just led on to knowing. Clearly somebody wants us out of this town. Now, I'm not saying they're Klansmen or nothing like that. The local white church has had the same problem. At least that's what the pastor tells me. And Ben Johnson seems like an honorable man. But there's some folks around here who don't take kindly to this congregation, and it has me worried. I think it might be, I don't know, just kids playing a joke, but the consistency in the early mornings makes me doubt. I believe that we could have some kind of Satanist run amok here.
And you haven't stationed yourself outside the church on a Sunday morning to see who might possibly come and throw the blood on the door?
I have, but not through the night, although it's coming to mind that maybe I should. I've stayed up here till nigh on 10 p.m. before I had to go and retire, and come out here as early as 5:30 a.m. But I have to preach in the morning at 8, you see. I can't be denying my congregation a well-slept pastor, so I don't do a stakeout or nothing like that.
Well, it's a good thing it's a Saturday night and we don't have a hotel booked.
That is mighty convenient. Listen, you'd be most welcome to stay with my family if you needed it, particularly if you're willing to spend this one night out in the car, watching the door of my church. I would be mighty appreciative.
Well, looks like we'd love to have our own sighting of these so-called cultists. Might not be a bad idea.
I had a dream of the pit in the book of Revelations that opened forth the Apollyon demon loosing plagues upon humanity. I dreamed that pit was Vernon City. Spewing out of it was all kinds of hell. This city is as empty and hollow as it looks. This thin veneer is even prettier than its soul. There are people in this town that'd sell their limbs for a small payout from an insurance company. What they wouldn't give for their soul. Well, I'm just saying be careful. That's all.
Yeah, well,
I passed through 1,000 of these shithole towns. But something different about this place, you're right. What is it that makes this place, well, so despairing?
Could be. It's in the middle of nowhere. Real estate companies say this is a wonderful place because it's an equidistant drive from all the major cities in Florida, but really that means it's the furthest place from anywhere, or the nexus point of every watering hole of sin and Satan in this state. Everyone passes through Vernon, no one stays. It's a transient place, a nowhere place, an empty place. Those places attract the ones who fall through the cracks, you know. It's a hollow city.
Amen to that, brother. This place is indeed quite the shithole.
Well, be easy. Stop your swearing in my church, for one, but this place is full of wretchedness and vice, as is everywhere, but I have a flock here, and some people are decent.
I'm sure Jesus had swore at least once when he got stabbed on the cross.
Well, I don't know about that. But what do I know? I only studied the Bible for 15 years. Now, I just remembered something that might be of use to you. That woman you're after, Joan Keys?
Mm-hmm.
She was often meeting with a man, Bob Cobbler. Yeah, he's not particularly important around here. Quiet folk. Unemployed since his accident. One arm and one leg. Well, you'll see a few of them. He would meet her at the donut shop. Always ordered the same thing. Big cherry milkshake with 3 cherries on top. Don't know how he's not bigger than he is. If I drank milkshakes, well, I wouldn't fit in this Sunday suit, but I digress. I might have to leave you. I have a woman to attend to over here. We're planning for a funeral.
Well, thank you, Pastor Luke. We'll be swinging by later tonight, but for now, I think, let's grab a donut.
I'll grab 2. Yes. Be seeing you later. We'll be snooping out the front trying to catch these delinquents messing up your front door.
Very good. As you walk out of the car park, the woman that Pastor Luke Jefferson was meeting with chases you into the car park and grabs one of your arms, taking you by surprise. Excuse me! She's this, fairly distressed-looking African-American woman, very well-dressed, very well-manicured, but makeup run around her eyes.
Whoa, ma'am! Don't startle a man like that. Especially when he's armed.
I will dismiss your threats in light of the fact that I need your help. I lost my son, you see, and nobody's taking me seriously. They say he was a suicide or something, but we ain't even found a body. I'm about to bury an empty coffin.
Well, where was your son last seen?
He went out into the woods to meet some voodoo men out on the river. Please don't tell anyone this. If my pastor knew, if my church knew.
Where on the river?
Oh, out on the Holmes River. He was, I don't know where. He didn't say where. He just came back half covered in mud. He said he had some plan to make a quick $1. I don't know what it was, but they weren't happy when he decided not to go through with it. He said some men were very mad at him. He was paranoid. Following him at night, you see, watched him through the windows, driving behind him, drove him mad, I reckon. He was saying strange things toward the end. He said we're all just made of bark, empty like envelopes, like trees, but hollow in the core. He went for a walk at, maybe it was 7 p.m. 3 weeks ago. Never came home, my baby.
Did he have life insurance?
No. He considered it, but we decided to cancel the policy.
All right, lady, well, we'll keep our ears to the ground, but can't make no promises.
Well, lady, I'll investigate in this for you. Your son, he will be found, don't worry.
God bless you.
I'll
gentlemen.
take a look into the forest later this week. I've got a couple jobs that I gotta get onto right now immediately, but I'll look into it for you. Where do you live?
She gives you her address. She just lives down on Dawkins Street, sort of a bit of a nothing street running through the woods, not many houses on it.
I'll be stopping by later on this week.
Great. You guys hop in the car and make your way to the donut shop.
I don't know if it's within your mandate to be helping old ladies like that out. We got shit to do here, man.
I think it's all tied together. Those men in the woods, insurance policy, backing out. I reckon that little fella got himself in some trouble he couldn't handle. Got cold feet last second, so they snatched his ass up.
No doubt it's all tied together. Everything's tied together. Everything's a system.
But I think this is exactly what you're looking for. If we can find a way to blame this whole scenario on this freaky voodoo cult, that's definitely an infringement of insurance policy, isn't it not?
I'll have to look up the word juju in regulations.
Well, if the people aren't chopping off their limbs and, by their own free will, someone's making them do it.